Hello everybody, Top Ball here. Today I'm going to talk to you about a level 20 encounter that I ran for my players that you probably shouldn't run. Let's get right into it. Alright, first up, let's take a look at our encounter. We're going to have 5 players at level 20. That is going to give us a pool of 110,000 XP to spend. The 5 monsters that we selected for this encounter are the 5 highest CR undead in the new monster manual that came out in 2025. This is also built using the new encounter building guidelines in the new Dungeon Master's Guide. In addition to this, we are considering the Lich to be in his lair, which means he gets 1 more legendary resistance for the combat, as well as an additional legendary action per round. Now, before we get into these stat blocks in depth, let's take a look at the players that are facing off against these undead. First up, we have a Moon Druid, followed by a Thief Rogue, Battlemaster Fighter, Dance Bard, and then a World Tree Barbarian is going to round out the party. All of these individuals I have played D&D with for many years now, and they're all well versed in the mechanics of D&D. We didn't have any new players or anybody who wasn't super comfortable at the table facing this encounter. For character creation, it was 2024 materials only. They were allowed to use anything from the 2024 Player's Handbook, as well as items from the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide. They were given an allotment of magic items, 1 legendary, 2 very rare, 4 rare, 4 uncommon, and 4 common magic items. And my only stipulation was that you did not have an enspelled item, and the 1 spell that was off the table was Maze, because I did not want them removing creatures from the encounter for the purpose of this testing. Alright, let's take a look at the stat blocks. We're going to have our Lich, Demi-Lich, Death Knight, Dracolich, and Mummy Lord right up top here. Let's start off with the Lich. For their legendary actions, they're going to have a Deathly Teleport, which does a little bit of necrotic damage, Disrupt Life, which is going to be a Constitution saving throw, emanating from the Lich, doing, again, a bunch of necrotic damage, and then it does have the ability to basically cast Fear. As a reaction, it can cast Counterspell or Shield. In addition, the Lich has a bunch of spellcasting and then a really nasty ability in its Paralyzing Touch. This is going to be a melee attack roll, plus 12 to hit, cold damage, and then the target has the paralyzed condition until the start of the Lich's next turn. No save. And the Lich can use this ability up to 3 times per turn. The Lich is a very good opponent by itself, but the other undead around it really kind of supercharge the Lich to be its best self, if you will. So moving on to our Demi-Lich. Demi-Lich's legendary actions: Energy Drain, Constitution saving throw, Failure, the target's hit points maximum decreases by 14, and then Grave Dust Flight, flies up to its fly speed, each creature within 5 feet of the Demi-Lich as it moves, DC 19 con save, or it has the blinded condition. Both of those abilities you can only use once per round, and then Necrosis, the Demi-Lich can make 1 necrotic burst attack. So hypothetically, the Demi-Lich can do each of these 1 time, or the Necrosis 3 times if you wanted to. In addition to this, the Demi-Lich has Howl, which is going to be a con save, bunch of psychic damage off the rip, and then the target has the Frightened condition on that failed save. So on its turn, the Demi-Lich can make 3 necrotic burst attacks or use its Howl if it is available. Next up, we have our Death Knight, and this is where things get a little spicy. For the Death Knight, any creature of the Death Knight's choosing, excluding itself in a 60-foot emanation, have advantage on attack rolls and saving throws. You cannot use this trait if you have the incapacitated condition. Considering these are all undead, it is giving the other 4 legendary undead advantage on attack rolls and saving throws, which is fantastic. In addition to this, it has legendary actions: Dread Authority. It gets to use Command, Fell Word. It picks 1 creature within 120 feet, does some necrotic damage, and that target's hit point maximum decreases by amount equal to the damage taken. Now, this is 2 abilities that reduce a target's maximum hit points, which will come up later when we talk about the combat itself. It also can move half of its speed and make a Dread Blade attack. It has a nice little AoE and Hellfire Orb, and it can make 3 Dread Blade attacks, some slashing, some necrotic damage. Not too bad. It can also dispel magic. I didn't use it in this combat, but it is a handy thing to have if you're a little bit more spellcaster heavy than I was. Next up, we have our Dracolich with another nice spicy ability. That's going to be life suppression. Creatures within 60 feet of the Draco Lich cannot regain hit points. This did come up in the combat. One of my players did not know about this ability and decided to cast Mass Heal, which then failed. In addition to this, we have some legendary actions. Another one where the Draco Lich gets to move half its speed and make one rend attack. Sickening Ray, where it can use Ray of Sickness. And then Terrifying Presence, which is going to be a little bit of psychic damage, and then the target has the frightened condition until the end of its turn. On its turn, the Draco Lich can multi-attack, make 3 rend attacks, again, a little bit of slashing, a little bit of necrotic, use its necrotic breath if it's available. It can also switch out one of the 3 rend attacks with Ray of Sickness at level 2. It does have a small amount of spells available to it. Detect Magic, Ray of Sickness, Create Undead, and then Finger of Death. And to round out our gruesome party is going to be our Mummy Lord. This was the only creature with a vulnerability. I thought it was a very cool thing to have on the character sheet. None of the players did fire damage, so it did not come up, but I thought it was pretty cool. On its turn, the mummy can make 1 Rotting Fist or Channel Energy attack, and it uses its Dreadful Glare. Rotting Fist is going to be a little bludgeoning, a little necrotic, and then it is going to be cursed, reducing the maximum hit points. Again, this is now the 3rd ability that does that, or the Channel Negative Energy, which is going to be its ranged spell attack. The Dreadful Glare is going to paralyze creatures on a failed save. It is a DC 17 Wisdom. Players did pretty good on the Wisdom saving throws, not as much on the Constitution saving throws. Little bit of spell casting. Cool reaction with Whirlwind of Sand. Basically, you hit it. In response, the mummy adds 2 to its AC, teleports to an unoccupied space within 60 feet of itself, and then any creature that it chooses within 5 feet of it in its destination space is blinded until the end of the mummy's next turn. 5 creatures, 5 sets of legendary actions. We get Dread Command. You get to cast Command. Glare. You get to use your Dreadful Glare again, and then make 1 Rotting Fist or Negative Energy attack. So those are our combatants. The Lich, the Demi-Lich, the Death Knight, the Draco Lich, and the Mummy Lord. Everybody is going to be rolling with advantage on their attack rolls and saving throws due to the Death Knight's ability. A lot of them already have the ability to roll with advantage when it comes to a saving throw due to a magical effect, but the Death Knight is dishing that out from him in an emanation. Players cannot regain hit points within 60 feet of the Draco Lich, which does come up during the combat, and we have legendary actions for all 5 of these monsters. That's right. All 5 of these monsters have legendary actions. At bare minimum, that is 15 per round, plus their turns. Let's talk about the running of the encounter and why you probably should not run this encounter the same way that I ran it. 15 plus 1 for the Lich because he's in his lair for a total of 16 legendary actions is a lot of legendary actions. With 10 total turns to be had, that is 1.6 legendary actions at the end of each turn. If you all of a sudden fall behind, you then need to make up those legendary actions. So if you miss it once, you're looking at 3 legendary actions at the end of someone's turn. Or if you miss it for 4 turns, 6 legendary actions, which you can't do. But all of a sudden you're having to play catch up, and there are a lot of variation in these legendary actions. Some of them are fears, some of them are teleports. You also have to remember reactions. Instead of having 1 or 2 monsters that have a lot of cool abilities and then a bunch of just kind of click and attack minions, having 5 different monster stat blocks that have spellcasting, reactions, actions, bonus actions, and legendary actions is a lot. Now, the one caveat to that is this was an amazingly fun encounter to run. It hurt my brain, but in the end, I enjoyed doing it. I probably wouldn't do it again, but I did enjoy doing it. So how did my players do? Did they slay the undead? Did the undead slay them? Well, it was a little bit of both. Let's look at the carnage. This was after the last round of combat, with the Dance Bard being at 0 hit points, Bildor being down to 67 out of 111, our Barbarian coming in at 210 out of 285, our Battlemaster Fighter dead, and our Moon Druid at 115 out of 263. Now, there are a lot of hit points missing here, but there's more to the story. From the beginning of the combat, the Dance Bard won initiative and charged headlong into the pile of undead. The undead then targeted them with most of the abilities that reduce maximum hit points. By the end of the combat, I believe the Dance Bard was only able to go up to 56. I think their max hit points were about 56. Now, for our Thief Rogue, the Lich, Demi-Lich, and Mummy Lord all have True Sight, so they were able to see through his ring of invisibility and attack him at will. And this also meant that he did not get advantage on all of the attacks versus these creatures. From the rip, the players kind of split fire. The Dance Bard charged headlong into the Demi-Lich. The Barbarian and the Thief started attacking the Draco-Lich. The Moon Druid started attacking the Mummy Lord. It was kind of all over the place. That all changed after a couple of rounds and a significant amount of damage laid down by the monsters. The Moon Druid tried to cast Mass Heal. With the Draco-Lich still up, nobody regained any hit points and the spell fizzled. They identified that the Draco-Lich was the cause of this, and then all of a sudden all of their focus went to the Draco-Lich, which fell very quickly after that. After that, they did hop from target to target and had much more success than their first couple of turns in combat. Now, with having reduced maximum hit points, the Dance Bard eventually did fall. Now, not through any action by the monsters, the Dance Bard died because there is so much kind of ambient AoE that goes on from all of these creatures. Their death saving throws were gone in a matter of 4 or 5 legendary actions, because when something teleports to a place, there's necrotic damage. When something teleports away from a place, there's necrotic damage. There's a bunch of just ambient necrotic damage happening at all times during this combat. Now, towards the end of the combat, the Lich did power word kill the Battlemaster Fighter, which ended up being his demise. But one cool ability kind of combination that you get with a Lich is if you pop Paralyzing Touch on 2 or 3 targets, and then pop your once per day Chain Lightning. This requires a dexterity saving throw, which you automatically fail if you are paralyzed, making sure that the players don't save on this once per day spell, which ends up doing 10d8 damage. I thought that was a really cool kind of combination that you have with the Lich first paralyzing a few players and then casting Chain Lightning. So in the end, what did I think of the encounter? This was a fun encounter. It was incredibly complicated to run. Between all the different legendary actions, bonus actions, reactions that all of the monsters got, that meant that I was doing a lot and trying to do it very quickly in order to not bog down combat for my players. Now, leading up to this encounter, I read all these stat blocks multiple times. I made a spreadsheet that helped me track legendary actions, but in the end, it was still just too much. I felt like the majority of the time it was me doing things versus my players. I like my players to have a good amount of agency at the player and feel like they're driving things forward, not the other way around. This was a lot. 15 legendary actions per round, plus actions and bonus actions. It did put a walloping on the players. I killed 2 of them outright. It was a deadly encounter, and it was built to be one. In my next encounter, I am interested in seeing what happens if you deplete your players before going into what is considered a deadly encounter. I'm not going to use 5 monsters with legendary actions in this encounter, but I'm going to use a good amount of what would be considered a medium difficulty encounter before going into that deadly encounter to see if it does change the outcome at all. Now, this is not going to be my last level 20 combat, nor will the next one be. I have many combats that I want to run with my players to see if the encounter building guidelines in the 2024 DMG are accurate or close to accurate, or if we can get a gauge on how to make them more accurate for our players at the table. I want to thank you all for joining me. We'll see you next time.